Is Russia moving troops away? Russian troops are pulling back from the border with Ukraine, signaling hope that the Russia Ukraine crisis is winding down. Also, Russian President Vladimir Putin, after talks with Germany's Olaf Scholz, has told reporters that Russia does not want war.
And today, we see infrastructure of NATO right on our doorstep. And this question is being discussed about Ukraine joining NATO. They say it's not going to happen tomorrow. Is it going to happen the day after tomorrow? What is it going to change for us in terms of historic perspective? We need to resolve this question now. We need to resolve this now over the course of these negotiations. And this is our position, and we hope very much that our concern will be heard by our partners and taken seriously.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has welcomed the new developments, but said he has not seen any de-escalation on the ground.
There are signs from Moscow that diplomacy should continue. This gives grounds for cautious optimism. But so far, we have not seen any sign of de-escalation on the ground.
The partial pullback was announced by Russia's defense ministry, which said, and I quote, "The units of the southern and western military districts have accomplished their missions, are boarding trains and trucks, and will head back to their garrisons." The ministry showed TV footage of Russian tanks clambering onto railroad train platforms. The announcement said the tanks took part in a massive joint military exercise with Belarus. The world is watching with bated breath, Ukraine's foreign minister Dmytro Kuleba said. If we see the withdrawal, then we will believe in de-escalation. Earlier, U.S. President Joe Biden warned of an impending attack by Russians, saying an invasion could happen anytime this week. He said Americans still in Ukraine should leave immediately. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said it was a very distinct possibility, although they can't pinpoint the time. He said Russian military action would take place even before the end of the Winter Olympics on February 20. Sullivan paints a dire scenario. If a Russian attack on Ukraine proceeds, he said, it is likely to begin with aerial bombing and missile attacks that could obviously kill civilians without regard to their nationality. A subsequent ground invasion would involve the onslaught of a massive force with virtually no notice. Scary. Moscow has always denied any plans to invade Ukraine, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has suggested continuing diplomatic dialogues. Reacting to America's dire warnings, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called on his citizens to fly flags and sing the national anthem on February 16. That's today, a date that some Western media said Russia could invade. Zelensky calls it a day of unity. He has publicly expressed the belief that Russia will not invade his country. With Russia's announcement of a drawdown, the world may breathe a sigh of relief. The partial pullback is a good sign, but we should wait to see where the eastern and central military districts go, especially after February 20, according to a NATO general. Why is America sounding the alarm on Russia? Is it to deter a Russian invasion of Ukraine, or is it something else? They sounded like they were actually asking for a bloody war. We remember then U.S. President George W. Bush warning of weapons of mass destruction before he invaded Iraq. They ravaged Iraq, killed Saddam Hussein. No weapons of mass destruction. Is America itching for war again? And why is Russian President Vladimir Putin demanding that Ukraine be kept out of NATO? Today's national boundaries have kept Russia out of most of Ukraine. But Putin is looking at Russian populations in Ukraine, in the Donbas region, and Kiev itself. Now, this is reminiscent of Hitler in 1938 when he eyed and then annexed Sudetenland, a region in western Czechoslovakia, inhabited by Germans and German speaking people. Hitler annexed the region with the agreement of Britain, France, and Italy. And the rest, as they say, is history. The West remembers this appeasement with Hitler. Perhaps that is why they are not willing to give an inch to today's would-be land grabbers. They raise the specter of war right away, jump up and down and sound the drum beats of war and sell military hardware. Some in the US Congress, the Pentagon, and corporations producing military hardware, they love to manufacture weapons to keep the United States the strongest in the world. There is also this political theater when politicians are having difficulties and doing badly at home. They need to look outward for somebody to quarrel with, to fight with, and show their home crowd what great leaders they are. What could be a desirable outcome for Ukraine in its relations with Russia and in relation with the West and NATO, which it is trying to join? Neutrality would be ideal for Ukraine if that is at all possible. But in realpolitik, it is impossible to be neutral if you are a small guy with big neighbors. It would be best for Ukraine to focus more on developing economic cooperation, that is, to do business with both the West and Russia. It is difficult at this time, but it can be done. It will not be right for Ukraine to join NATO. Its ties with Russia, culturally and emotionally, are too deep. The Russian identity was born in Kievan Rus, in Ukraine itself, more than 1,000 years ago. And Ukraine is part of Ruski Mir, the Russian world in Moscow's eyes. But yes, those Russian troops on the border must go. Because it's like you're trying to hold a party at home, but your big neighbor has also invited his gun-toting friends, who occasionally fire their weapons in the air with a clear intention of scaring you and your friends. Your friends leave, scared of the guns next door. It turns out that big neighbor is actually a close relative of yours. You told him never to come to your place again. This place where he was born.